And welcome to Inside the Program on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm your host, Justin Wells. With me, as always, Eric Nalleen. Hey, it's Texas Georgia week. And before we dive into all the goodies, come see us at InsideTexas.com. For $1, you get 7 days. This is a flash sale. This is a big week. That'll also lend you to 50% off of your first year. So join now. It really is the absolute best time to follow the number one team in the country, the Texas Longhorns. Also like this video and subscribe to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel. We keep putting out stuff every single day. It's good after good after good, good on good. Hey, Eric, look, this week is a little different than the others. Texas has been number one this season. That's been fun. They haven't really had any close games, but I think that's going to change on Saturday. I think we're going to find out who these Longhorns really are when the number 5 Georgia Bulldogs and Kirby Smart come into Austin. Let's just dive into the team stuff. There's a lot of good stuff. And let's talk about Quinn Ewers. That's been the biggest topic with us, at least within our circles, just trying to find out if he's really still rusty, if there's some lingering effects of an injury. What is the latest you're hearing about the starting quarterback for the Horns?
Yeah, we're hearing a lot of different things than last week. Where last week it was kind of silent. The week before we were hearing, well, he's not hurt, which didn't really tell us he was playing well. It just said that he wasn't hurt. Right. We're still hearing that he's not hurt and there aren't lingering effects. Now that's, a point of some consternation with some fans, and I understand that because he did not play well. I attribute that more to Brent Venables and the layoff. Brent Venables, I think, caused some confusion, and I think confusion is going to break down your mechanics, get you a little antsy. He wasn't stepping up in the pocket like we saw normally. Yeah. This week has been a lot different. He's looked a lot better, a lot more comfortable. Now, could that change on Saturday? Of course it can, because Kirby Smart's going to have something to say about it as well. The other defense has input on the game. But everything we're hearing points us in a favorable light. He had a good week of practice, the whole team did. But, I think Quinn, we're hearing a lot more favorable things about Quinn this week than last week when there was almost radio silence, and the week before where it led us to believe that maybe he was healthy, but he was rusty.
Yeah. And that lends us to the next position. That's right behind him. That's at running back. And we've seen the ascension of Trey Wisner over the last 3 or 4 weeks. We knew that dog was in him, but man, he is running with the pill like a dog now. And what are you hearing about movement at running back? Because we know Jaden Blue's had his problems with the fumbles. He kind of came back against Oklahoma, looked good, looked fine. But Wisner is just taking on taking that crown, man. What movement are you hearing at the tailback position right now?
Yeah, well, it's a good sign for Trey that this is the first of 2 times we'll talk about him today. He got a lot of the first-team carries this week. Probably the balance of them went to Jaden, but most of them went to Trey. He's earned it on the field. He ran hard last week. They're both fast. They both have some good receiving ability that can make people miss, but he's breaking tackles. And you've got to, against good defenses, you got to break tackles because that's going to get you extra yardage. Look at Ashton Janty up at Boise State and what he's doing after contact. That's huge. That's once the play's drawn up and the offensive line has done its part. Now it's an individual sport, and he's getting what he can and making the most out of these runs. And he's getting some good perimeter blocking down the field. I shouldn't say it's an individual sport. Everybody's doing their part, but at some point you got to make a play. He's making plays. He's not only can make people miss, he can run through them. You got to come through with spirited effort to get him down. He made some, pretty decent OU defensive backs look terrible last week. How can you not play that guy more? He's earned it.
He has earned it. And, you said he's running hard. I don't think we've seen an instance where he doesn't run hard or play hard in that instance. And that just goes to the person Wisner was when we covered him in recruiting. He, the word dog gets thrown out way too much, I believe, in 2024. He is the quintessential pound puppy. Like, Trey Wisner's a dude. The
Quintravian essential. He is that guy. We've had to adapt. I still can't remember to call him Quintravian, no matter how many times I hear announcers and people say it. It's just he's always been Trey Wisner since we knew him as a sophomore. But yeah, he's earned it, and he's earned the respect to be called whatever the heck he wants to be called.
I just don't want to spell it out in all those tweets because he's always doing something good, and it just takes a lot more time. I'm like, Trey, I've known you since you were Trey.
Yeah.
But hey.
He's a good reminder when they bark or when they bite on special teams as a pup, they're gonna end up bite when they get older, because he was flying down like a madman on special teams. And really, he's another one of those players that we heard great things about him before he ever took the field for Texas. We always heard that he was prepared, hungry, reliable on special teams. You're not going to play as a true freshman unless you're reliable. And then, of course, you got to run down like a maniac and hit people. So he's another example of guys that we heard good things about before they ever touched the field.
6 weeks into the season, how does Texas keep maintaining that intensity? Because we've seen them come out and do well. Now, they've had a few slow starts, but for the most part, this team has been wonderful on Saturdays, top to bottom. And it's because of being prepared, but also they're bringing a certain intensity each week. You've got stuff about, coming. You really want to maintain that after Oklahoma. You always feel like there could be somewhat of an emotional letdown. Now that's tough when Georgia's coming, the next week, but there's, you expend so much against the Sooners. It's only human nature to think that there'd be somewhat of a letdown. What are some of the ways that the team is starting to maintain that, and how is Sark tackling that?
Yeah, well, I'm glad that Georgia follows OU rather than the other way around. I think you want the better team to follow the other team, just because you're going to be more inclined to be focused. But that was the concern when the schedule first came out. We're like, man, how are they going to get up for both those games back-to-back weeks? I have absolutely zero concerns about it right now. Zero. We talked about it on Monday on the Monday Live. I was on 2 Monday Lives this week after getting information from sources on Sunday where they were back to business. I asked again a different source this week. How was intensity and focus? They said it was great. So they got their partying done on the field and in the locker room, and Saturday night. But on Sunday, you couldn't tell if they beat OU or Mississippi State. It's back to business, focusing on Georgia. Watched a lot of tape on Georgia outside of the facility this week is the word. A lot of the leaders were urging guys to keep watching. You only get this chance once in a lifetime to play Georgia at home.
Right.
Make the most of it. So I have zero interest or worries about their focus, their intensity. I expect them to play hard and smart.
0.0% worry from Eric Nolene. I think that's good stuff, guys. Hey, I'll tell you who else gives you some good stuff. That's Andre the Lawyer. Man, if you're ever stuck or in trouble, that's the guy you got to call. We love him, and you will too. This video is brought to you by Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that's secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury cases. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, wrongful deaths. Do not let that insurance company tell you what your claim is worth. Andre the Lawyer is one of the best in the state of Texas. He's going to fight for you. He's located in Dallas, but he will help Texans throughout the state. Give him a call at 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. Andre the Lawyer. He will do whatever it takes to help you out whenever you're stuck. He'll even send you your hoodie back from Ann Arbor. Ryan Wingo, our boy Nash Talks Texas, Justin Nash, gentleman that did some work for us this week. It's good to see him helping out the Inside Texas team. He is a talented guy. He did a nice little story about Ryan Wingo and some of the other impact freshmen in college football this year. What kind of impact are we looking at this week from Ryan Wingo? Because sources are telling us that maybe we've heard a little bit different out of that wide receiver room, what's actually happening this week. Kind of go into depth a little bit about the added impact by Ryan Wingo potentially on Saturday.
Yeah, Wingo is one of two players, and we'll talk about the other one here in a minute, that took advantage of having extra snaps this week due to injuries. Obviously, Isaiah Bond was tender after the game last Saturday. He left and didn't come back. Yeah. We're not worried about long-term with Bond, but Wingo definitely took advantage of his snaps this week. What else can we say? Because, we could talk about him, and we talked about him a lot before anybody ever put their eyes on him. But then when everybody actually sees him, like we didn't even put it properly into words of how good this guy is. You saw him, shoot through those, split those tackles last week. It was just a play that that was Roy Williams' speed on display there. We have not seen that in a long time. But he's gonna play a lot this week, and he's going to be a tough matchup for some Georgia corners that have had issues with average to good wide receivers. Ryan Wingo is beyond good already. I expect him to have a big game. I mentioned him as one of my key contributors this morning as a guy that's going to have going to give Georgia a lot of trouble. I guarantee their defensive coordinator is worried about the wide receivers, and Ryan Wingo is one that they're focusing on a lot.
And they should. The guy, every time he touches the ball, it's like 25, 30 yards a carry. So if I was Georgia, that's something I would definitely pay attention to. Fans want to know the keys to this game. And I'm one of those guys. Like, I want to know, what does Texas need to do? Give me 3 keys that Texas needs to accomplish in this game on Saturday to knock off number 5 Georgia.
Yeah, well, this kind of just proves that football can be quite simple. I asked this of a source, and it's basically the same thing that many of us have been writing. Many of people have been thinking all week is they've got to get pressure on Carson Beck.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's the most talented passer they've faced this year. He's got a chance to be the best college football player in America on Saturday. He's that good. He does have it within him to throw for 300 plus yards and 3 touchdowns against a good defense. He has that ability, so they've got to play well. That means coverage in the back end and getting pressure on him. Colin Simmons has to get after him. Vernon Broughton, Alfred Collins, those guys need to be flushing him and getting him off his off rhythm, and then they need to close the deal on him and get him on the ground. So Carson Beck, you gotta hurry him. If he sits back and is able to use play action, they're gonna make some hay down the field.
Yes.
Another one, win the turnover battle. Again, there's low margin of error in this game. There's low margin of error in a lot of SEC games. If you look at the SEC across the board, almost always the team that wins a turnover battle wins the game. Now, Texas and Mississippi State was an outlier. Texas, that turnover battle was only 2-1 in Mississippi State's favor, and Mississippi State's not all that great. But there's just too much. There's not enough margin of error for Texas to turn the ball over. Another one that I don't see listed here was Texas has to do better in the red zone, touchdown wise. They've been stellar going into the OU game. They had 27 trips into the red zone and 24 touchdowns going in OU. Last week, they did not have that same rate of success. They got to get back to the normal self. When they get in the red zone, they got to punch it in. Of course, if they want to score touchdowns from outside the red zone, that'll work too. And then, of course, it all starts with protecting Ewers on offense. Got to create the pocket for him to step up into. They did a good job of that last week. They need to continue it. The pass protection has been amazing this year, but it can't be the offensive line of why the team stumbles if they do. They got to get Ewers the right environment to succeed, protect him, keep him upright, buy him time, get him that top pocket for him to step up to and make plays like we saw up until the OU game.
I think the most comparable defensive front that we've seen going into Georgia is Michigan. And what do they do in the red zone against Michigan? They use True North, Jarrett Gibson. So I'm hoping they may dial him back up a little bit this week and get him more involved, because that's a guy that I feel like just smells the end zone. That there's a lot of Cody Johnson 2.0 in that kid. We always do this each week. Some standouts from practice this week. Sometimes it's the notable guys that we always talk about, and every once in a while you get some new names. And so, but fans love to know kind of some of the standouts from this week. So why don't we go ahead and let them know some of the players that were hooking it up this week.
When I asked the source this question, he started laughing. He's like, "Well, my hit rate's not going to be as good as last week, because last week he absolutely nuked it. He had Leonga Lafau, Silas Bolden, and Jalen Gilbo. And all 3 played well. And Gilbo has to have a good game. We're not talking enough about Gilbo versus Dominic Levitt this week. That's going to be a good matchup. Those guys have sort of similar mentalities, similar athletic profiles. I think that's going to be a good matchup. Number 1 was mentioned was Jahdae Barron, and he's got to have a good game going up against number 11, Arian Smith. Arian Smith's their best deep threat wide receiver. That's going to be a hell of a battle. Both guys are trying to put NFL tape out there.
Exactly.
That's going to be a good one. If Jahdae can help erase him, and he's erased everybody's face so far this year, that'll go a long way towards Texas having team-wide defensive success. Another one mentioned, Jelani McDonald. He's another player that took advantage of increased reps due to injury. We hate that Derek Williams got hurt, but McDonald had a good week of practice. He's the number 3 safety, but we might see something a little curious out of him this week. They've got some plans for that guy. He's a very good player. It's going to kind of depend on what Georgia shows, but we could see him having a pretty big game. Trey Wisner was mentioned. Again, you expect him with increased volume due to his how much success he's experienced last week. Right. They gave him more reps. He earned them, and so he had a good week. Everybody's liking what they're seeing out of him. And then Ryan Wingo, of course, talked about him earlier as well. Anytime you give a really talented player more reps, what he's going to do, he's going to show off. He's going to reward you for making that decision and play to his strengths. And then we also have to mention that both scout teams were mentioned as having excellent weeks. They're not necessarily a player that stands out, but they received a lot of praise from the coaches for the looks they were giving the team, the intensity they played with. They upped their level of physicality to do their best to match Georgia. Obviously, they can't match Georgia. Georgia's Georgia. But they did their best to give the best looks they could to the offense and defense. So special shouts out to the scout teamers.
Yeah, absolutely. We always got to give the scout teamers some love. They are just as much a part of it as anybody, and they have actually been very helpful in this 2024 road to number one. Come see us. Join Inside Texas today for $1. That will get you 7 days, and it also gets you 50% off of your first year. This is the time to do it. Texas, Georgia this weekend. The content at Inside Texas continues to flow. It is a crazy amount coming out this week, and for good reason. We got a lot to talk about and a lot of fun stuff to anticipate. A lot of stuff going on today, Friday at InsideTexas.com. Come hang out with us. Got a tailgate that's going to be popping on Saturday. Swing by, give us a hug, say hi, ask us some fun questions. Let's have a good time, and let's welcome the Bulldogs to Austin, Texas. Eric, thank you so much for joining us. Fans and viewers, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and joining us on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.